Hello, everyone. I'm Jill Toro with Cyber Risk Alliance and SC Media, and I am joined today by the incredible SC Media editorial staff so that we can share a little bit about what we see being the most interesting and maybe the least interesting about what's to come at RSA, only a few weeks away, which probably scares them terribly as much as it scares me in terms of preparation. But I'm going to do a quick roundabout to introduce everybody. We have Joe Uchel, who is our senior reporter focusing on cybercrime with us today. We have Derek Johnson, who is our senior reporter focusing on government. And we have Jessica Davis, who is our healthcare editor. So first and foremost, welcome to all of you, and thanks for joining me today. Come on, give me a thanks, Jill, or a yep, happy to be here. So first of all, I want to say I'm excited for RSA because I have had the pleasure to be with Derek and Joe in person at Black Hat, but Jessica, you and I have not met in person yet. So that is first and foremost an exciting aspect of RSA coming up. So I'm looking forward to meeting you.
I'm really excited.
Yeah, you and actually others. I had another call about RSA recently where there is a lot of folks that I have yet to meet, having started only a couple of years ago. So that will be great. And to let everybody listening know, we will have a big team at RSA of everyone on this call, as well as quite a few others. So we're hoping to connect with as many people as possible, both through our coverage, through a lot of videos that we'll be doing on the floor with our Security Weekly team, and through all of the networking opportunities that we always have. So that said, kicking it off, I do want to pick all of your brains in terms of what you are looking forward to hearing more about at RSA, whether it be through sessions and the agenda or just conversations that you have. So I'm going to kick it off with Joe. I know you have some interesting plans at RSA, so maybe share what you're going to be doing and then what you're hoping to focus on.
This year at RSA, we have a booth in Broadcast Alley, and what better way to take advantage of a Broadcast Alley booth than with a daily audio broadcast? So I will be putting together a daily edited together audio story on a variety of different topics over the course of the week. One of the things that's interesting this year, I think, when you look at it compared to other years, the topics that have changed, the things that they're focusing more on now than they have in the past, seem to be AI and supply chain. Supply chain isn't a huge surprise, given that the call for papers, while it was in September, that still came after Kaseya and SolarWinds and a number of other different issues that had come up over the year. But AI, I think, is a little bit of not a left field choice, but something that you might not have anticipated quite as much of a focus on. And it's an interesting topic. It's actually one of the topics that I'll be going into. Because when you talk about artificial intelligence, there are a number of different ways to be approaching it. Obviously, artificial intelligence within the mechanisms, the security tools is one issue, and probably the thing that comes most to mind. And maybe some people are thinking about artificial intelligence being used in attacks. But there's a growing sense that artificial intelligence itself can be attacked, and that's one of the issues that I think that they're doing a good job of bringing in experts on this year. Whether that means people who are experts in the privacy concerns with large data sets, or different mechanisms of poisoning the well in kind of ruining people's ruining machine learning, or even in the weird legality that comes along with artificial intelligence. because a lot of the hacking laws that were built, and this is something that we got into, it might have even been at last RSA. So if you look at our previous RSA coverage, it was either then or Black Hat. All days, everything past a week ago just seems like the same time. But it was definitely one of our previous conference coverage. There's interesting legal issues with attacks against artificial intelligence, because most of our cybersecurity laws were built around more or less breaches rather than disruptive data sets or reverse engineering data sets.
Yeah.
And that changes the approach which enterprises would have to take in order to protect their artificial intelligence.
Yeah, it's less about their own actions necessarily and more about, the way data is managed. It's interesting, and I'm glad to hear you say that, because when you said AI, I thought it was going to be the conversation of how AI can be or will be utilized within cybersecurity, which kind of is a topic that I feel like has gotten a little old, but instead looking at what you just described is, to me, more relevant and more timely. So that's
one of the talks that I'm looking forward to, and that I'll be covering on our still untitled Joe Uchil audio explosion.
There it is. There's your title. No.
There's a title. Yeah. No,
We didn't go with you chill with you chill.
Yeah. Chilling with you chill.
I vote for that as well.
But one of the talks that I'm looking forward to, a researcher with Sophos is going to talk about how to evaluate AI claims within products. There's a famous study that was done in Europe over products that claim to have artificial intelligence in them, and they found that the majority of them did not have artificial intelligence in them at all.
I love that. That's
so
interesting.
That was a few years ago.
Yeah.
Obviously, things have changed. Machine learning is a little bit more applicable, but it's also still the amount of machine learning that is in every product, which is to say the amount of machine learning that everybody uses, and the amount of machine learning that is excessive and probably unrealistic, are two concepts that I don't think people are quite familiar with yet.
Yeah.
The fact that it's a thing that everyone uses, like I guess the cigarettes "it's toasted" slogan, the thing that everyone has.
Yeah.
Or the magic prevention juice sort of slogans that I don't think that the idea of how much, I don't know if most enterprises have a sense of what's realistic and what's a red flag within advertising for for machine learning based defenses. I don't even know if I have a great sense of it.
Oh yeah, the overstating. I think AI has, and automation even, but AI in particular, there's been an overusage of that word, I think, across industries in terms of what is AI when it's not entirely true. So that's a good point. I know it happens in government, so I am gonna throw it to Derek and see what your perspective is in terms of what you're focusing on. I'm curious how much RSA is delivering content focused on government. I do know there's some partnership, critical infrastructure content out there. So what are you going to be looking at?
Yeah, I mean, there's quite a bit on the government side. There's a lot of zero trust content out there, for good or for ill. I think kind of if you see what that's obviously been something that RSA has tackled in the past, but I think this year you're seeing with the federal government putting out its own zero trust mandates, you're seeing, and then kind of the trickle down effect that happens when the government does something big like that, it sometimes trickles down to the business world. So I think there's kind of a different flavor this year with some of the sessions. And then beyond that, I see a lot of talks that revolve around essentially figuring out like okay, so the federal government passed cyber incident reporting. What does that mean for businesses at a ground level? We now have, like, I think that's where the discussion has moved to, particularly as so the Biden administration and Congress, they passed a new incident reporting law where critical infrastructure has to report significant hacks to CISA. The SEC is standing up their own sort of version of those same rules for publicly traded companies. There's already kind of concern from tech trade groups and other folks about the potential for, duplicative reporting or reporting overload. So I think a lot of folks right now are trying to wrap their head around, we know cyber incident reporting is coming. What's it going to look like? What kind of a burden is it going to be on us from a time or a paperwork or like a resources or coordination standpoint? I think that's where a lot of the focus is, or at least, more so than, previous incident reporting stuff has been about like why we need incident reporting. And I feel like a lot of this stuff is now, okay, we're going to get it. Now, what does that mean for us on the ground level?
Yeah, so it's a combination. The government, which is often the case at RSA, the coverage focused on government is a combination of, yes, what government is doing to protect themselves, zero trust, for example, but also the legislation, the regulations that are coming out from government and what that will mean for organizations in terms of how they handle cybersecurity. So that's kind of what we're seeing. Yeah, I feel like that's actually an evolution. I went to RSA a number of times when I was focusing on government, and I do feel like both the focus on what government is doing as well as the focus on the impact of government on the ground has expanded. So it's nice to see. I'm glad they're making sure to incorporate that in there, which is great.
Yeah, it's my first time going to RSA, so I don't know how this stuff was tackled in previous years.
Yeah.
But that's another thing that I'm looking forward to, is just getting to go to RSA for the first time and experiencing that. Hopefully not in the midst of a massive coronavirus wave like happened.
I know.
DEF CON, but yeah. So
hopefully not. But everyone heard it here. This is Derek's first RSA. So I'm indoctrinating him, and whatever that may mean. So
I'm putting my schedule together now. So
now's the time, right?
Hurry
Absolutely.
up.
All right, Jessica, now to you, healthcare. Now that's a different vertical, and it doesn't quite have the dual role that government does. So what are you seeing, and how are you going to focus your time?
Well, it's actually my first time too. I'm shocked that Derek.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I've been wanting to go. From a healthcare standpoint, the agenda is a little thin on that. But there does seem to be some great focus on medical device security, privacy issues, threat sharing. I know that ISAC is going to be there. So I'm looking forward to discussion around those topics. But I'm also tuning into various strategies, tuning into other sessions to sort of see the various strategies used in other sectors and sort of pulling that back to see how or if it could be applied to healthcare organizations. Given the complexity, it may not be. But so instead, I'm sort of leaning more toward those face-to-face conversations. If I have sort of conversations scheduled around the creative ways to handle healthcare's staffing shortages, the current state of security issues in healthcare, and also the impact of supply chain attacks. Those have given healthcare's sort of predominant vendor focus. There's been a lot of conversation around that. So so I'm getting creative, and I'm looking forward to sort of seeing how the broader industry as a whole can sort of better perhaps tailor to healthcare's complexities. So
yeah, a lot of the legacy issues I know healthcare deals with, which I think they start to get into, maybe IT and OT, all of that fun.
I am curious to see, because I think that it has there isn't necessarily a broad healthcare focus, but I do think there is a lot of value to be gleaned from sort of what everyone else is doing and finding success and sort of seeing if we can narrow that down for healthcare folks.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say generally, I know all of you feel this way. I feel this way, that so much of it is about the one-on-one conversations. So I'm looking forward to that, attending sessions, participating, but really kind of just talking to people in person for once. So like Derek said, I think Jessica feels this way, certainly. Joe, reach out. I know many have, whether it surprises folks listening or not, we do get inundated with requests for conversation. So I'm working on my schedule today, and I hope to get back to more folks, but we will be there on the ground, and we're looking forward to talking to everybody and covering the show. So be sure to check out SC Media and to see all of the coverage that we will be filtering out, both in terms of articles as well as videos and all that fun stuff. So to you, those helping me out with this panel discussion, the wonderful reporters, thanks for joining me, and I'm excited to see you in a few weeks. And to everybody listening, thanks for tuning in, and we will see you there too, I hope. Thanks, everyone.